Welcome to Dan Really Likes Wine, and probably the coldest day on which this show will ever be filmed, ever, because while it's nice and warm inside, I'm still wearing a jacket, and outside it's about -3 degrees, because I'm in the heart of South Kensington, part of the South African city of London, and I've found what is Mecca if you drink wine in this part of the world. It's a place called Handford Wines. They sell all sorts of stuff, loads of that overpriced French rubbish. Far more importantly, lots of really cool South African wine. And the reason they sell so much of it is because one of South Africa's greatest wine ambassadors is the man behind this particular shop. Greg Sherwood, a very good morning. It's never too early to be drinking wine, but particularly now, it's -3 outside. This is perhaps the downside of having shifted from South Africa to London.
Absolutely. Well, they say it's always 12 o'clock somewhere in the world, so we're safe there, but I think medicinal wine definitely needed today. It's absolutely freezing, so it'll go down well.
We owe you a great debt of gratitude as a South African wine industry because you are relentless in your support of South African wine, partly because you come from that part of the world, you're very dedicated to the industry, but also because you know more than most just how well we're doing as an industry now, just how well South African wines are shaping up against those from the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm very lucky to have this as a category to champion. I mean, there are a lot of people from all over the world championing categories, but we've just blessed with so much kind of ammunition to use, and our industry is just year after year so exciting, so dynamic, evolving. There's always a joker up the sleeve. There's always something new. There's always such amazing innovation coming out of there, and it just makes my life and job so easy, and it gives me so much ammunition to sell these wines to really interested, thirsty clients. So it's brilliant.
And we both love South African wine. We know it well. I walk in, I've seen you've got some vintage Paul Sour. There's some De Toren over in the corner, a bit of Molyneux resting peacefully. I might try and nick some of that on the way out. We know it. What about the market here? How well do you find people know and understand South African wine, and how much they want to try it and from there buy it?
So I mean, I've been pretty much pushing for about 20 years now. South Africa's been very cool for probably certainly the last 5-8 years, but I mean 20 years ago it was still, you would get customers coming in asking for fine wine and say not Chilean and not South African, or there would be caveats. I haven't had that for many years now. I think a lot of my regular clients and even new clients have been well converted, and they've got the wines in their cellar and they've seen how they age, they see how they improve with age, and they see them now appreciating in value purely because of new releases going up, but also because there's a secondary market developing for older wines, fine wines, and these things don't last forever. People are drinking them and they're becoming quite finite now, and I think the days where people would just pull old 82s and 84 Merlots out their cellar, or old 91 Paul Sours, and just drink them midweek, those days are kind of slowing down, if not coming to an end, because those are quite rare bottles, special bottles, and go for thousands of rands in South Africa at the Oldenburg auction. So it's been really great that get those wines in people's cellars. It takes years, but then they see the quality and how these things improve with time, and often show better for equivalent vintages than very, very expensive French wines, French Bordeaux. And that makes my life very, very easy then. And then it's just about working with the growers, keeping your knowledge up to date, and getting the very best wines and the best allocations. And because I've been doing it so long, we fortunately get good allocations of all the top stuff. And that's very, very important. I'll probably come under pressure in the years going ahead now as more people get on the bandwagon and start asking, but I'm happy with the way it's going.
I've had a look around. There's some great South African wine, some of the real rock stars of South African wine you have here. But you're a very small operation in the greater context of the whole wine market here in the UK. My pet hate is walking into a Waitrose or a Sainsbury's or a Tesco's and there's 2 dancing elephants Chenin Blanc being sold at 45p a litre. How much is the broader market moving away from that as the perception of South African wine and as the principal amount of wine being sold, and starting to nudge a little bit further up that scale?
So, it's funny how there takes points in time and often grey clouds that turning moments. And so if you take the drought in the Cape in the last few years, 15, 16, 17, 18, it's really put a pressure on bulk wine and cheap wine, and it basically almost wasn't there. So there's been a real push for slightly trying to premiumize wine and bottled wine, not bag in box, not bulk. So that's had a real push, and it's had an effect. Higher value volumes were low, they're going up again now, hopefully. And the same thing happened in California with the crash, in 08, 09. Producers couldn't afford to put everyday Chardonnays in 100% new oak barrels, so they started saving money and reining back and putting them in 30% new oak or 40% new oak, and then they discovered actually they made better wines, and that changed the industry. And I think the drought in the Cape and the complications around water and supply has changed the industry, and it's changed people's behaviour even in Cape Town and South Africa. And I don't think that will change back easily. It will evolve from there, and hopefully that'll have a long-term effect on higher price points in supermarkets, better quality wine, more bottled wine, less bulk, and just a real, even if it's a small measure, kind of higher quality. The rand is, it's been fairly stable, but I think if the economy gets stronger, the rand will have a bit of consistency against dollar and pound, and people can plan a bit longer ahead, and I think we'll see slightly higher price points creeping into the mainstream of high street and supermarket. So that's my hope. So
if we look at some of the trends in South Africa, very broadly speaking, over the last few years, we're seeing higher end Chenin having more of an impact. People are appreciating it again. The rise of rosé that doesn't take the enamel off your teeth when you drink it. Some of the lighter reds, the West Coast Revolution. What's been happening as you see it in the wine market here, and how then does that apply to what South Africans can do to ensure we get a bigger chunk of the market here?
Well, it's quite funny because often you would think local, trends start at home and then go overseas, but often a lot of these things, the trends have been transferred overseas, have become, whether it's been championed by people like myself or journalists or the industry overseas looking for something exciting like Old Vine Chenin or this and that. Often it's come then full circle back to South Africa and the locals, who are not the quickest to discover things because they're quite like, quite a good bit of budget bry wine, and it's only shorter times of the year that a lot of people drink red wines, a lot of white wine, but a lot of these things have come round circle starting overseas. Certainly the Chenin, things like the rosé, it's all started overseas. People looking for what we call like unicorn rosé, only made one barrel, of Cinsault from 40-50-year-old vines. There's only, or from Mourvedre or Cape Coral, Bandol style. So people like Lucas van Lochenberg making his pale rosé, Cape Coral from Waterkloof. I mean, these kind of styles all mimic the kind of classic dry, French food pairing kind of rosé, and it's none of this kind of sweeter kind of. But that's a trend that's come back to South Africa, and now I think in the summer there you'll just see rosé being splashed everywhere at kind of posh parties, and it's delicious, and it'll be dry stuff, very fresh, clean, pure, and brilliant with food. So it's these little trends which you see, and I see them, a lot of them then transferred back to South Africa, and I think the fact that more and more international wine was being sold in South Africa has encouraged people to dig a bit deeper in their wallets and spend more on these kind of old vine Chenins and Cinsauts and Shirazes and things, and pay bigger money because they are, the quality wise, they're head and shoulders above a lot of countries' wines, and up there with some of the best from France. And I think we're seeing that with scoring and ratings, and it's very exciting. So
it's a lot of talk about wine. I'm now extremely thirsty. I'm also slightly cold. An antidote to both of those problems is some red wine. And we've got some here. I think we both know quite well, a gentleman called Thijs Lombard. Nobody actually knows what he really does. He just seems to be travelling the world with wine and giving it to people and appearing in photos on Twitter with Bob Skinstad. I think that's kind of his job. But I know he dropped some of this off with you earlier this week. This is from Oldenburg. So what I thought we could do is we could taste a little Stellenbosch red get your thoughts on it, and give everybody yet another South African wine in London to come and have a look for. So you pour away and then give us your expert opinion on what is, I think this is a new label, if I'm not mistaken.
So this is the new etiquette of Oldenburg, which they've been developing for a little while, and it's just, I think, come on stream, certainly with the Rhodium for the 2015. What a great vintage to launch a new label. So this is their flagship Bordeaux blend, Merlot Cabernet Franc, and we've just going on to the 15 now. We were selling quite a bit of the 13, which was delicious wine. But for me, having met the owner quite a few times when he's in London and also at Cape Wine, and meeting taste and tasting through the range, it's very exciting. The kind of passion and the real genuine kind of intentions to really make the wine something special and great. And for me now, with the Nick van Aert, the new winemaker, who's a good friend from Warwick, moving there, I think it's incredibly exciting. I don't even think Adrian and Taste and they know what they've got there. I mean, they've obviously hired him, so they know he's good, but he's a brilliant guy, and he's an exceptional winemaker, and I've followed his wines over the years, and he's done some amazing things. So I think with the raw materials he has in some of the most incredibly beautiful terroir of Stellenbosch, I think Nick's just going to take things to the next level for his career, for the winery, and for the quality of the wines. So very exciting, but enough talk.
Yeah. So this is the Bangkok Valley. This is Michael Jordaan's part of the world. It is beautiful. It also makes some lovely wine.
So you've got a lovely plush, kind of plump, kind of almost right bank Pomerol, Saint-Emilion kind of Merlot base, with just a little bit of 30% of Cabernet Franc, just to kind of embroider the wine, add a little bit of elegance, a little bit of seamless textural finesse, and a little bit of extra perfume. But Merlot's been one of those grapes. It's been very difficult to make really high quality Merlot, well, pretty much anywhere in the world other than the right bank in France, parts of Tuscany, where like Maceto, and places in California. But I think now we're seeing a real understanding that if you find the right terroir and the right vineyards, the right aspect and site, it can make quite high quality, not just a component for a Bordeaux blend, but I've tasted
wine in its own
yeah,
right.
I mean, this is for almost intents purposes almost a pure Merlot. I mean, it's 85%, and you could put Merlot on the front label, but it's fantastic. It's got such lovely fleshy weight, it's got concentration, it's got the depth, but classically South African, it's just got that bit of extra restraint and minerality and just classicism to it, which you don't always get on slightly sweeter, maybe Australian wines, Chilean wines, even Californian, some of the bigger Napa, Sonoma. So that's
lesser wines, I think is the term you're looking for. Lesser winemaking.
We have such a USP, that, and it was kind of spun out as a cliche, kind of new world fruit with old world structure. But we fine tuned it so well that it's become, you can't. It's our unique style. And when you make really premium red wine, it's fantastic. I mean, Paul Sauer are doing it, Mielis, from the old days, but you've got new guys who are making wines like this now. So it's a lot of eyes will be open to new terroirs, new areas, and Stellenbosch is of course one of the great red wine areas of the world. And I think with all the kind of hype of Swartland and the young guns, which has been great, they're rediscovering the kingdom of Cabernet and the kingdom of Bordeaux varieties in Stellenbosch.
Especially out of 2015.
And if you want a vintage to do that, 15 was incredible. And I think when we look back on some of these wines in 15, 20 years' time, we'll think, wow, what a great vintage. So we're very lucky. I think you've tasted quite a few 15s.
Purely from a working perspective, of course. It's one of the
in the line of
one
duty.
of the demands of the trade. So this is here. I know you stock the Oldenburg here. You've got a whole range of South African wine. So people are watching here, or whether they're South Africans in London or they've got friends and family, just people generally in this area, and come through, do some tasting from time to time. And I do a lot of events here and stock up on all manner of wine, but in particular some great South Africans.
Yeah, we've we over the half the wine we sell is French, but we've made a real name, carved out a niche for the best quality, top end South African wines, and kind of also as well as some of the kind of more individual, unique producers. So it's a real mix, and there's something for everyone. And we just do so many things well in South Africa, which is, a lot of countries are a little bit one trick pony. They do maybe certain varieties well, but we've just, every time you think we've got everything in its box, there's a few more tricks they just spin out, and it's kept the journalists following, international journalists following South Africa. It's kept the trade, it's kept the buyers, it's kept everybody on their toes, and kept them excited. And that's the most important thing of why we've not just kind of fallen off the radar after a couple of years of big news. It's ongoing. The wheel keeps turning, and there's they keep coming up with something new that's exciting and that's genuine. It's not just a reinvention of something old. So that for me is great, and hopefully it's represented on the shelves with a mixture of the new, the old, the classics, and across price points and quality. So it's very exciting.
So there you go. If you are a wine lover, if you're a homesick South African, if you just want to drink something really cool, come along to Handford, ask for Greg. They have the Oldenburg amongst others. It's a terrific selection from the top end to the slightly more accessible. But whatever it is, you can be guaranteed, as Greg has said in not quite so many words, but definitely meant it, that South African wine is way better than anything else from anywhere in the world. Cheers.
Cheers.